On today's episode, we're introducing you to Simon Cooper. He is the founder of Grin. It is a very technical toothbrush we're talking about today, and I actually have the opportunity to try his products before having him on the podcast. I am obsessed, and not to mention, my toothbrush is now rose gold, thanks to Simon. So let's jump into this episode and hear more about his unbelievable product. I am obsessed with your product.
Oh, thank you.
So ever since you mailed it to me and just messaging back and forth and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to interview you and just share the story of how you started this.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, it's good. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, no
But
problem.
yeah, no, it's going well. People like it. I mean, it's it's a lot of work, and it's kind of like I feel like in the last few months, it's really starting to get word of mouth. Like I only really started marketing in March, but I feel like it's starting to get like people are liking it and telling more people. So yeah, it's good. But
Well,
good for you on the podcast and stuff. That's awesome.
yeah, and I feel like with products too, which I've noticed from being service now being more of a product line, it's word of mouth, right? Is the best way
Yeah.
of advertising.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Because I mean, like I run ads all the time. You probably heard about me from seeing ads, but man, it's expensive too. So the more, like, the better you make your product and the better the experience for people, yeah, the more they're going to tell other people.
And the whole influencer marketing and now like the affiliate programs, and every time I buy a product, I swear they're like, oh, here's your promo code, and they're like trying to like make it a business for everyone else too, which everyone wants a little piece of something, right? So it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
neat way that they're starting to use those platforms.
yeah,
But to run a, like for us as a product line, we were looking at all these affiliate programs and stuff. It is so expensive and it's so overwhelming trying to even figure out which ones are the best. And being in Canada, you have to pay
yeah.
US dollars for everything too. So it's really tricky.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't even looked into it that much. Like, honestly, when people reach out to me, like you did on Instagram, I'll look at their profile. And if it doesn't even matter. If somebody has 500 followers or 1,000 followers, I'll send them a product just because I want the word to spread. And I don't want to be super picky and be like, you have to have a certain amount of followers or a certain look. Like, I just want people to use it.
Yeah.
But I'm the same. I've kind of looked into affiliate programs a little bit, but it's just one of those things that's down on my list because the same as you, I just found it like a little bit overwhelming and
Mm.
yeah, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, do you guys use Shopify?
We use Squarespace actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's with our website engineer, she just decided to use that one because it was a lot easier, and for our spa it has online booking and stuff like that, and then
Oh,
we
right.
had
Yeah.
it all set up and then I can just go on and do
Yeah.
everything. Now it's a lot easier, but I kind
Yeah.
of, I don't know, part of me wishes I went with Shopify because it is just so much easier with all the other platforms.
Yeah, I mean, Shopify's a beast, right? Like they're so huge. Even since I started on it, they've just taken off. And there's a lot of good things about Shopify. Like my day job is as a graphic designer, and so actually I was just designing a website right now for a client.
Mhm.
But Shopify makes it really easy, but at the same time you pay for it. Like so that's what I was gonna say. Like my Shopify per month fee is like, I don't know, 39 US or something. It's like the basic one.
Mhm.
But then all my apps, it's just like it just keeps adding up, adding up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like that with Squarespace, but yeah, you got to be careful, right? Because it's easy to get an app and go, oh, that's cool. And then you look at your bill and you're like, oh my God.
All the little things, like even the link tree on your Instagram. I don't know if you have that activated.
No, I don't have that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I have all these affiliate codes. I've got the YouTube, I've got the podcast. I'm like, okay, I can only I can't do one link, the URL for my bio.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking at this link tree thing, and then I'm like, I'm gonna have to pay for it because it only allows so many links. And if I want it to like generate so I can see how many people are clicking, and I'm like, okay, that's $6 a month. And I'm just like looking at all the little
Yeah.
expenses
Yeah.
running a business that add
Yeah.
up. Because
Yeah.
just look at the end of the day, like the outside people as your consumers or buyers, they look and they're like, oh, well, they're selling this product and that's it. It's like, oh no,
Yeah. Yeah.
the expenses that come with it.
Oh, I know. I'm sure everyone thinks that with Grin too. They're probably like, what? That much for a toothbrush? And it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
you have no idea.
Well, and the story behind it, that's why I think that's why I wanted your product too, because of the story and how you do donations. And like, I was watching a YouTube video, I think even before I had messaged you, talking about like how it sits on the counter and how like
Mm.
eco-friendly it is. And really, I don't think I can ever look at a toothbrush the same now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So why don't you share with our viewers and listeners just about like how you kind of came up with this idea and how it revolved and how long you've been doing it?
Sure. Yeah. No, definitely. So the idea came to me. It was quite a while ago. So I started working on Grin in 2016, and I had the idea probably 5 years before that. And like a big dummy, I just sat on it. Like I just, you know, not a good entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm just not going to move on that great idea. So I sat on it for years, and then one day, I was just a little bit bored at work, or I had some free time, and what happened was I was brushing my teeth one night, and I looked at my toothbrush and it was all worn out, like all frazzled and stuff. And I thought, okay, I need a new toothbrush. But I have this like hatred of throwing away plastic. I don't. I mean, I grew up. My dad dragged my sister and I camping, and I used to mountain bike competitively, and um, so I have an appreciation for the outdoors, and I hate throwing away plastic. So anyway, so that night I was looking at my toothbrush. I thought, man, this is dumb. Like, why am I throwing the whole handle out? You know, the brush head, sure, it makes sense, right? That's gross. It's been in your mouth. The bristles don't work anymore, and it's kind of gross. But the handle is a lot of plastic that, frankly, doesn't need to be thrown out. And I was thinking about razors, and you keep the razor handle. Why would you, right? I mean, there are disposables, but I don't know how many people use them. So anyway, so that's when the idea kind of hit me, and like I said, that was about 5 years before I started. And then 2016 was when I finally reached out to I interviewed a couple of industrial designers and started working on it. And yeah, and here we are, I guess 5 years later now, and it's up and running.
That's amazing. Now, with your graphic design, like where did you always think you were going to become an entrepreneur, or was it like something where it just like you had this idea and it just kind of started and
Yeah, no, good question. I think I always kind of knew. Like I went to school for graphic design, and even in school, I think I knew that one day I wanted to have my own business. And but I worked for probably 10 years at different places because I knew that I wanted to start a graphic design studio. That was my goal. And but I knew that I probably needed to learn off other people. So I always kind of wanted to have my own studio, and eventually I went out on my own in 2007, I believe. And I still do graphic design on the side. But yeah, I mean, I'm clearly an entrepreneur. My last couple jobs, I was not the most pleasant person to work with. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have the same kind of story where it's like you believe in yourself, right? And you believe like the way I think I can do it is better. And so yeah, I kind of became a bit of a grump at my business, and eventually realized I have to try on my own.
well, and I think too, like I got fired from multiple jobs, I'm not gonna lie. Because I'm like, hey, this is how I would do it. I'm
Yeah,
definitely like my dad. We're a little stubborn, but I think
yeah,
because you see like the things that can better the business, and you're like trying for your boss or the person above you in management to see those things, and it's like, just listen to me. I almost felt like I was like stomping my feet and just being
yeah.
like, come on, just listen to me, just give me a chance. And then I'm like, okay, you're not gonna listen, I'm just gonna do it then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the exact same. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too with the idea of having like the idea of brushing your teeth, and someone's using a toothbrush twice a day or more or
Mhm.
less, I guess it
Mhm.
depends on the person. But
Yeah.
it's something that anyone can use. And where did that kind of all come about, where you were brushing your teeth, you realized the disposable head, all of that stuff, and then how did you kind of take it to the next level? You said you started getting like actual engineers to manufacture it and everything, so how did that all go about?
So yeah, I mean, like I said, so my background is graphic design. I really knew nothing, and I still don't know a ton, but I'm learning about how to make a product. But I guess it's that entrepreneurial kind of spirit where I'm sure, well, you are the same way because you just went and did your own thing, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to try this, and so yeah, so in 2016. I thought, I'm just going to give this a go. Just something to do. It drives me crazy how much plastic's being wasted. I started looking into it a little bit during the design process of the toothbrush, and it's shocking. It's like at least 3 billion toothbrushes a year are thrown away, disposables, and I think it's probably closer to 4 or 5. But nobody records, has any stats for that. So it was really gross. So anyway, yeah. So I hired a graphic designer by the name of Ryan Day, who's a really good guy, And he basically, we went through the design process. He presented me some concepts, we refined them, and eventually found, I got some prototypes made, found some manufacturing, and I did an Indiegogo campaign to try and raise a bit of money, which helped. And yeah, I got the first batch manufactured and started selling online in February 2018.
Amazing.
And yeah, no, it was good. Yeah.
Now, how was your experience raising money? Personally, I've only pitched like my business idea was for a female entrepreneur program, but it wasn't like a real, it was like a fake pitch thing we had to do for
Mhm.
training purposes. But how was your experience pitching?
Yeah, it's, you know what, I'm not a naturally outgoing salesy person, so I find it really tough, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Indiegogo thing makes it easier, right? Because it's a platform. You basically, you have your own webpage, you put up images, you put up a video, you write about your product. It's a lot of work, especially because for me, I had to get prototypes made, I had to do all the stuff, which I was doing anyway, but it's still a ton of work. So that kind of makes it easier because at that point you kind of have a campaign. But I did an awful job.
Oh,
I really had no idea how to properly launch a crowdfunding campaign. I mean, if you know anything about them now, which I learned after, is that people market them for months. Like people will spend $50,000, $100,000 marketing their campaign. I did nothing. I literally built it and then launched it one day and told friends and family. So I didn't raise a ton, but it helped. Every little bit helps, and it was a good experience. I mean, it really helps you kind of find your message.
hmm.
Um, and then since then, I've done a bit of pitching locally. Like there's a local incubator here called Innovation Factory in Hamilton, which is great. It's, you can go and you can get advice from entrepreneurs and stuff. So I did some pitching there. And last year, or was it the year before now, I was on what's called their Lions Lair, which is like Dragon's Den, and you have to go. And we were on live TV pitching and stuff.
Oh,
So yeah, so that was a lot more work. Like that's, standing up in a room of 500 people and on live TV. It's a little nerve wracking, but it was good. I mean, honestly, it helps you hone your message, and every entrepreneur should go through it because it just helps you get to that point where you have the confidence to stand up and talk to people who you don't know, and in a big setting like that.
even your elevator pitch, like when I was at this women's event, that was one of the things we talked about as like entrepreneurs is like, you're in an elevator with someone, explain your business in like 3 sentences basically on what you do. If someone asks you what you do, you don't want to be like verbal diarrhea and tell them like
Yeah,
a paragraph of like what you do and it's like this long drawn out thing. You should
yeah,
be able to nail what you do in like 3 sentences or less. The shorter the better. But
yeah.
also I it was one of those things where like figuring out like the problem, like why you started the business
Mhm.
and like really dialing in, and those presentations make you forces you to think even the numbers because you have to present your numbers and then you
Yeah.
sit back, you're like, okay, does this make sense?
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had to do all my numbers before I launched the Indiegogo campaign because you have to come up with a price. And
Mhm.
even though you're not really super tied into that price because it's a crowdfunding campaign and it's not the actual, but it gets you to do all the numbers and do all that stuff. And yeah, exactly. Like I spent tons of time writing, trying to come up with the right words and make it really short and concise. So yeah, I hear you. It's a lot of work, but it's
Well,
good.
well, even with the whole numbers too, like as entrepreneurs, I'm just kind of speaking as a general comment
Mhm.
here, but I feel like we always kind of shy away from the number game.
Yeah. Yeah. I
About
mean,
grading and building, and then it's like, okay, did the numbers make sense?
yeah. Exactly. I mean, I'm with you because naturally I'm kind of a creative type.
Mhm.
Being a graphic designer, it's about creativity. I'm terrible at numbers, like terrible.
Mhm.
My bookkeeping kills me. I hire people, and even that I find painful. So it's pretty tough. But like you with your business, you have to do it, and I think stuff like that kind of really really forces you to grow, right? It's when you do things that you're not good at that you grow more. If you
Mhm.
stick to what you're used to, and I find I gravitate, like if I'm sort of stuck spinning my wheels, I'll gravitate towards doing something creative with Grin. I'll come up with new ads or work on a video, and I'm like, wait a sec, that's not what needs to happen. I need to do bookkeeping, or I need to do this. And so yeah, no, it's tough.
And challenging yourself. I think that's the other thing is with the pivoting of the world right now with COVID and all the
Mhm.
online thing too, and reaching out to people. Everything's virtual, like even what we're doing today, right? Like reaching out to
Mhm.
people and just kind of getting uncomfortable so then you can grow to that next level.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think I can't remember any of the quotes, but I've read quotes that are basically like that. It's like the uncomfortable moments. It's when you feel out of your depth. That's when you actually are growing. So yeah, anytime, there's a really good book out there. Oh, it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's a great book because it's basically that. It's like, look, if you're scared of something, the only way you'll ever overcome it is to do it. And so put yourself in those positions and for sure that's when you grow.
Oh yeah, I like think of I think of sometimes the things that I did. Like I started my spa business when I was 20 and I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing and I was scared. Like I was like my anxiety was like there wasn't even a
Yeah.
level. It was off the scale. Like it wasn't even
Yeah.
existent. And I think that's where people were like, how did you do things? And even with you with your graphic design and your experience there, this whole product line thing is a complete like
Yeah.
other beast on its own, right? So
Yeah.
how was everyone's reactions when you started telling people what you were doing?
Um, a lot of people were surprised. I didn't tell a ton of people at first. I did what they say now you shouldn't do, which is keep your cards close to your chest and don't tell a lot of people. I told obviously, my wife and certain close friends, but not even a lot of people. I don't really know why, to be honest. But when I did tell them, everyone was supportive. I mean, I kind of get the same thing anytime I pitch it or if I bump into someone or whatever. It's COVID, so I'm not bumping into people very much. But anytime I did tell people, they're like, "What is it?" And I said, "Well, it's a toothbrush where you keep the handle and you just change the brush head." And people are like, "Oh my God, that's genius."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, yeah, it seems so obvious to me. Like, I don't quite understand why no one else has come up with it. It seems like such a simple idea. So yeah, I'd say mostly it's almost always positive. I haven't had anyone, at least to my face, say anything really negative. So
That's
that's good.
so explain the concept of it. So like personally I know because I use one, but
Mhm.
just explain to everyone else exactly what your product is and why it's different than others.
Sure. That's essentially what it is. It's a two piece toothbrush. So the handle is made out of what's called anodized aluminum, and so the idea is that you keep it, right. You keep it for life. You don't have to change it. You're not throwing away all that extra plastic. And what's nice about aluminum, and especially anodized aluminum, is that it's lightweight. So it's light to ship. It's durable. It's the most abundant metal found in the Earth's surface. And one of the best things is it's infinitely recyclable. So when we think about recycling paper or plastic or other metals, really only glass and aluminum are infinitely recyclable without losing quality.
Mm.
So I don't know if you've ever heard the term downcycling, but if you think about recycling a newspaper, you throw it in, it doesn't turn into another newspaper. It turns into like coasters or paper packaging. Uh, so with aluminum, it just keeps becoming high quality aluminum over and over again. So that was the benefit of using that. And then the anodization is like this really kind of crazy idea or this crazy process where instead of painting it, because I knew I didn't want spray paint or powder coating or anything that it's going close to your mouth. So the anodization is where the color is actually bonded with the handle.
Oh wow.
So it actually becomes part of the aluminum, which is pretty cool. And then, yeah, and so the brush heads are, they're way smaller. A typical toothbrush weighs about 25 grams and it's disposable because um, most of them these days, if you look at them, they're made with different kinds of plastic. There's like a rubber grippy part with grooves in it. And then there's a grippy part on the head, maybe a tongue scraper that's a different material. So because they use all those different plastics fused together, they're not recyclable because it's hard to separate them. Whereas with ours, it only weighs 3 grams. So it takes about 6 or 7 Grin brush heads to make up the weight of one regular toothbrush.
Wow.
And then on top of that, ours are recyclable because they're just one kind of plastic. Uh, and plus, we take them back and we send them off to a company called TerraCycle, which is a commercial recycler. So anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying it's a two-piece toothbrush, aluminum handle, small replaceable brush heads, and it was kind of cool because when I started out, my goal was just eliminate plastic. But during the design process, the designer Ryan and I, we kind of figured out like looking at regular toothbrushes, you put them down, they instantly roll over on the counter. And so if for some reason you put your toothpaste on it, put it down,
I know.
it rolls right over. And then, bathrooms are not the cleanest places. And so we thought, well, that's kind of gross. Why wouldn't we make the bottom flat? And then, when you put ours down, as you know, because you have one, the brush head's elevated, so it doesn't touch the counter. So, and the fact that it's a like a brushed aluminum, it's kind of grippy. It doesn't need to have ridges or grooves or anything, so you don't drop it when it gets wet. So, I was happy. It was kind of like, it was not a design mistake, but it was a happy sort of accidental finding that, oh, hey, we actually made a way better toothbrush as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love that you have rose gold.
Yeah, yeah, rose gold. It's our best seller by a
Is
mile.
it? Yeah, because when I was like messaging back and forth, I'm like, is it possible that because my brand for my lash line is all rose gold. So everyone who knows me knows I'm obsessed with rose gold. So I was like, okay, this product and this company knows me inside and out. Like this is perfect. Now where because you have is like a silver, a blue, a pink. Is there any other ones or is that the
Yeah,
three?
so we have like the silver is actually kind of like a dark gray. I call it slate, slate gray. We have rose gold. We've got a lighter blue called Arctic, which is almost a turquoise. It's slightly bluey green. We have a dark green called Forest. We have pink, and we've got a light green, which is called Lime.
Wow.
So purple, and we have a purple too. So right now we have 7 colors, and we're actually working right now on our sort of, I won't call it 2.0, but our next sort of big manufacturing. We're making some slight changes to the design, and at that point, we're gonna have some really cool new colors, which I can't really talk about now, but there's gonna be some really neat stuff coming out. So
Oh,
I'm
cool.
pretty pumped about that.
Now, are you ever considering like bringing in other products as well for like oral hygiene, or is it just you're going to just stick with the disposable heads and keeping the specific handle the way you have?
No, definitely. I mean, that's a great question. I've been wanting to do other products for a little while. It's just time consuming, and I've been really focused on. I really want to perfect the toothbrush, and it's almost there. So, toothpaste is a big one. Toothpaste tubes. I don't know if you've seen any of the tablets that are sort of getting more popular, or
Oh,
toothpaste paste. Yeah, tablets are pretty cool. They're out there. They're gaining popularity pretty quickly. It's just like it's like a pill, and you pop it in your mouth, you chew on it, and you just put your toothbrush in your mouth when it's wet, and it foams up a little bit. Not as much as normal toothpaste, but they do a good job, because toothpaste tubes are brutal too. They're not recyclable either. So you think for every toothbrush, there's probably 3 toothpaste tubes out there in the landfill.
and you
So
waste
I'd
so
love,
much.
love to do that, and then eventually a stand, and then maybe some floss. So I'd like to have eventually a full family, so it's like a one-stop shop.
Awesome. I love that. And also with tubes of toothpaste, like I remember as a kid, like my mom probably wanted to kill us the amount of toothpaste that was everywhere. And
Yeah.
like it and out of the tube alone, like I don't know if if you know anyone who's the same, but like with the lids, how many different types of lids there are, and then it's all in the lid, and then you've got all the waste, and then in the tube alone, you've got so much wasted toothpaste.
Oh yeah. No, exactly. I mean, they're most of them are a mess, especially those flip top ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Those
That's
are the
what I'm
worst.
thinking. Yeah.
But the other thing that a lot of people don't know about toothpaste is that to keep it, because toothpaste is wet, people, obviously it's in a tube, it has to be squeezed out, it has to be in a liquid form. But um, to keep it safe and not from getting bacteria moldy, they have to put all these preservatives in them. So they're actually really not healthy for you. On top of, because there's all these preservatives just to keep them wet. Whereas a tablet, it's dry. It doesn't have to have those things, so they're a lot more natural.
I've never even heard of this tablet thing. Like I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
You're in
I'm
the
in the
industry,
toothbrush
I
business,
guess.
so yeah, there's a bunch of different companies out there. If you just Google, there's one called Nelson's Naturals out west in BC that makes them. There's one in the States that's really popular. It's called Bite Toothpaste Bits,
Okay.
and I've tried those. They're good. So yeah, they're getting popular. I mean, honestly, now's the perfect time. Like I got pretty lucky launching Grin when I did. I think if I'd launched too long ago, maybe when I had the idea, it wouldn't have taken off, because so many more people are interested in environmentally friendly products now. I've seen it since I launched in the past 3 years. It's incredible. At first, talking to friends and family, people even then didn't care so much that they were saving plastic. But now, I get questions online all the time, like, is it how do you recycle it? Is it recyclable? How do you ship? Is your packaging fully paper and recyclable? So it's been a huge shift. So these tablets, I think, are getting more popular, but it'll take them a while to become mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even your packaging, like right down to your envelope, like everything's as eco as you can make it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I'm like I said, I hate throwing away plastic, and I just hate plastic in general. I mean, plastic's a great product; it's really useful, but we way overdid it. You know, we're not using it responsibly. So yeah, our envelopes are paper, our packaging is fully paper, so everything's recyclable.
I love
And
that.
as much as I can in the future, everything will be as environmentally friendly as possible.
Now, chat more about your $1 donation. Like, explain to people when they buy a toothbrush what happens.
Yeah. So initially the idea was that I was still using plastic. The brush head still used a little bit of plastic, and that bothered me. And for the first probably year and a half, 2 years, the message was you can remove the bristles and recycle the brush head in your blue bin. But the problem is some municipalities don't take them. So I started looking for ways to offset that. And so what I did is I found this organization called Ocean Legacy Foundation, which is again out west in BC. And I decided to donate to them. So I thought, okay, if I give them $1, I worked it out with them that works out to about, what is it? I think 125 grams of plastic and debris they will pick up. So we did the math and we figured out that if I gave them $1,000, this is how much they would pick up. And so 125 grams is roughly 5 disposable toothbrushes. So with Grin, it's not just you're saving that much plastic, but we're also taking that much plastic out of the ocean. Um, so at first, that's who we were with, was fully, all the different colors donated $1 to Ocean Legacy Foundation. But then somebody contacted me and said, "Hey, I think you should do a pink one, and I think you should donate $1 to Rethink Breast Cancer, which is obviously a breast cancer charitable organization." I said, well, "That's a great idea." And then I thought, wow, you know what? I could align every color with a different charity, and so that's what I did. And so now, they're not. I think there's 5 charities right now. So a couple of the colors duplicate; they both give to the same charity. But eventually, my goal is to add more charities and have $1 from each toothbrush go to a different charity.
I love that so much. Like, and also too that you're keeping it as local as you can too, like keeping it
Yeah.
Canadian. And that's why also I've been trying so hard. Even when I saw your company, I was like, I'm trying to buy as local as possible when it comes to anything and everything now, and especially supporting entrepreneurs and keeping our money as local as possible. And I love that, even with the foundations, trying to keep it as close to home as possible.
Yeah, I know for sure. I mean, I think it's important, right? Like, um, it's just great to support local companies. I love it. I always try and buy small companies when I can, especially around here and even online. I mean, I just bought something from an eco-friendly clothing manufacturer out west that I'm actually going to put on an email. So yeah, I think it's really important. And some of the charities that we give to are pretty big, like Save the Children is a worldwide foundation. 350.org is a really big. Well, they're mostly really big. One Tree Planted, but they all have impacts locally as well as around the world. I didn't want to make it too small because I'm hoping as it grows, people are aware of these.
Yeah.
But also, I did some homework and I researched which charities are good, because there's a lot of charities out there that aren't really efficient with their money.
Yeah.
And so if you give them money, too much of it goes towards admin and salary and stuff like that. So these ones are all really good.
And that takes a lot of time of sitting back and doing all that research too, like especially if you have
Yeah.
like 7 foundations that you're working with as well, like that's a lot. And then figuring out like, okay, how many of my sales are going to this one, and like separating all of that. So that's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you. It is way more work than I thought it was going to be. The finding the charities took a while, and that was tough. But I also reached out to people I knew, and I think through an email, and asked for suggestions. So that was great. I had existing customers write in and make suggestions, so that really helped. But the tallying up of who bought what and has definitely been tricky. But but I figured it. I just actually donated last week to all 5 charities, so it was good. There's
It makes
tons
you,
of trees being planted and money being spent wisely. So.
and it makes you
Yeah,
feel
it feels
good.
good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to solve a problem, but I feel like you've solved the toothbrush problem. Now you're solving all these other existing problems by donating. So you're like, you probably just feel so good when you're able to like give them that check and be like, here you go. And this is like my hard earned like research and money you've put into it, but it's so worth it at the end of the day to be able to do that for others.
Oh yeah,
to the
100%. It feels
planet.
great. You know what, and it makes me happy too because customers like it. Like I get feedback from customers saying that it makes them feel good. So it's like this big virtuous circle of everyone feeling great, which is awesome.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I like it. I just can't wait till as Grin grows, it's I'm getting more and more money, so it's good. It's exciting.
When I love knowing what who you're supporting and when
Mhm.
you're buying that product and what their grand plan is with that money and what they're going to do with whether it's raising for other products or if they're going to be donating. Now with your products, when I brought it into my bathroom, unpackaged it, I was amazed by how good it felt in my hand. Like
Mm.
I don't even want to use a normal toothbrush anymore because just the quality of how I was holding, I think I messaged you. I was like, the quality of this is unreal. Like holding it in my hand, I was like, okay, it sells itself. And even how soft the bristles were using it. And that's why I wanted to have you on because it was like, I need to share this with other people. Because you think something so simple as a toothbrush you're like, you feel good using it, you're using it 2 times a day, and
Yeah.
you're making an impact in the world. So it's like a win-win.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's true. Like designing it, I was the first time I got prototypes, I was just over the moon because, you know, we're so used to disposable toothbrushes. Now, more and more people are using electric, but most of us have used or do use, throwaway disposable toothbrushes, and they're dirt cheap. Like they're made to be extremely cheap, and they're made to look expensive though, and that's where you get all these different colors and the grips and all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, they don't want you to spend $5, $6, $7 or $4, $5, $6, on a toothbrush that looks like it costs them 10 cents.
100%.
So as we designed it, I was like, wow, this actually feels great and is nice, and it got me thinking that like, yeah, there is an opportunity here to have a really good quality, nice toothbrush that you actually are happy to own.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so it's great to hear that. I appreciate that.
I wonder too what the percentage of people using electric versus manual.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, electric's growing for sure, but I don't know quite where it's at. And in North America, there's definitely a higher percentage using electric. But if you look worldwide, it's much lower because they're expensive. And I'm not going to knock any product. I just electric is, to a certain degree, they're good because you're only changing the brush head.
Yeah.
But those are also disposable, and there's you're using electricity and batteries and wiring, and when they get tossed out, there's just a ton of waste. So I don't know. I think and I think electrics do a great job. Some of them probably do a slightly better job, but I've also read articles that say it's too subjective. Like depending on how you brush, like some people brush really well, some people don't. So
I
who
know.
knows?
I
Yeah.
actually, with COVID and everything, I still need to go to the dentist because just going for regular cleaning. But I'm interested to see because I'll probably be using your toothbrush for a while
Yeah.
until I go, just when things start opening up again. And I'm like interested to see because even I noticed I used my other toothbrush because I forgot the other one, forgot yours. And I was
Mhm.
using my normal one and I was like, my gums actually kind of hurt. And
Yeah.
I probably didn't notice it until I used yours because of how much harder I was brushing using my old manual brush because it just the bristles were so much harder. There were so many different things I
Yeah.
noticed. I'm like, this is like the luxury toothbrush I'm always going to be using now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's pretty.
Well, no, it's true. I mean, well, our bristles are special. They're tapered, so it means they're pointy. They're referred to as floss tip, and so they feel really plush and soft, which I agree. I love them, but they also penetrate further between your teeth. So yeah, we get a lot of feedback. I get people messaging me all the time asking what if we're going to make medium bristles, but I reach out to hygienists like in dentist office that sell Grin, and they say no, like medium's not good. So who knows? Maybe the one you were using was a medium bristle, but
Yeah, that's true.
they're not good.
Now, share too, you just touched on a point that dentist office are selling your toothbrushes as well. So where can people kind of find your toothbrushes, whether it's online or in store to where are some of the places you're retailing now?
So it's still really small. We're selling just at a handful of dental hygienists and dentist offices. And I can't remember where they are off the top of my head. I have to go have a
But
look.
mostly in GTA area then, like where you are?
Well, honestly, one's up north. There's one more local. I can't remember. I'd have to have a look. I have a terrible memory, by the way.
No, that's all right.
Um, but we will be selling in retail. probably in the next, I'm hoping 6 months, we're going to have a big push into retail. As we just refine this latest new product and get closer to retail, because I don't know if you noticed, but right now we don't have barcodes and stuff like that. So right now it's really, except for unless you happen to walk into one of our hygienist dentist's office, whose names I unfortunately can't remember. It's really just online for now, but soon it'll change.
Oh, barcoding. I started doing barcoding when I had launched my business. Oh my God. And we have like probably over 100 SKUs. So I was like doing all the barcoding, and then I had a spreadsheet, and my boyfriend taught me how to do it. So he used to own a freezy company. So he had to do all the barcoding for that. So he's like showing me how to do it. And I'm like, this is a lot of work. And I'm like, we have wholesalers, but they usually just go off SKU numbers. They don't actually go like our product number. They aren't going off of the actual scanning for the barcodes. And I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And the fees that they charge you on top for the, was it
GS1?
Yeah, Geo. Yeah. So I'm like online, and I'm like, okay, no one's even using these. I'm not paying this fee anymore. So it's just like a constant, like that alone. I remember sitting in a cafe for probably like 3 days. I found I was just like, okay, if I'm going to a location, I'm going to barcode. That's like my thing, because it's just mindless. You're just like moving numbers or copy and pasting, moving them all around. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. Barcoding. Thank goodness you only have 7 SKUs to do. It is a lot of work.
I know. I just found that out recently. I was like, what am I can't figure this out. This is ridiculously complex.
I know. And who would have thought? I can't look at a barcode the same now. Something so simple as a barcode.
Yeah.
How much
exactly.
headache they are.
You're like, oh, I feel for you people.
I know. Especially I find too, because there's so many different layouts of your barcodes. Something I think as people listening to this too are probably like, why are they making a big deal about barcodes? Okay, YouTube how to generate a barcode, and you'll understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you'll never look at them the same way. Everyone's going to have huge barcode appreciation after this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Now, is that something you're going to do yourself, or you're going to outsource that, or where you?
No, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I'm doing it myself. Yeah, it's. I mean, being a graphic designer, I'm really fortunate that I was able to design my own brand, my website, my packaging. So that's saved me a lot of money, but it means I also have to do the painful bits like the barcodes myself.
Yeah. Also, too, being a graphic designer, you probably don't want anyone else to do it, because you're probably that's your domain. Like, you know what you're doing in that sense, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of funny. It's like working on other people's projects, for clients is fun and it's interesting. But when you work on your own, I don't know, you probably find the same thing. There's something harder about it, right?
Yes.
Like you're too close to it and it's too personal. The same with coming up with your tagline or your elevator pitch. You probably, if you're like me, you probably had to bounce it off a bunch of people and get feedback. So there are times when I wish I could just kind of wash my hands of it and say, please, someone else do this. I don't even know if it's good. Like I look at it myself, I have no idea if I'm doing a good job anymore.
Yeah. Well, your branding and the name and your logo, I love it. It's so good. Now, did you go through a lot of different names and logos? How did that all come about?
You know what? It actually happened pretty quickly. I started working on it, and like I said, I gravitate towards the things I'm good at. So, I remember I had like an Evernote file, and I started writing things down. And I think I had 2 names. I don't remember the first one, but the second one was Grin. And normally when I work on naming projects, I'll come up with like 100, and just brain dump. Could be stupid names, doesn't matter. But my wife walked by and she said, "Oh, that's a cute name." And so I thought, okay, I'll go for that one. And I liked it. It's short, it's easy to say, it's simple. And then the logo is more painful. But yeah, actually, I did an Instagram post on it recently because nobody really knows what it is. But it's actually, there's the word Grin, but beside it, there's like a circle with a semicircle underneath. And so it's 2 things at once. It's like a stylized lowercase g, but it's also the top circle represents like a planet, and the lowercase part is like a smile. So yeah, it's one of these crazy designer things that we see or we know that nobody else knows or will ever know.
Well, now people listening to this will know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Well, and that's a thing where sometimes as entrepreneurs, you can be like 2 different types of entrepreneurs, where you're just the type that want to like launch it, be like, just get it on its feet, run with it, see where it goes. And then there's like that tedious, like perfectionist entrepreneur, which sometimes I don't think I've ever met somebody who's in the middle, who's like a happy balance of both. I feel like everyone's like one way or the other way.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like, I think it's like left brain, right brain, right?
Yes.
Like either you're like I said earlier, I'm not good at numbers, math, finances. That's my weak spot, and I have to try so hard to do that. But as far as being an entrepreneur, I think I'm lucky in that I just tried the whole thing. I had, a lot of people would do market testing, and they may run some ads to see if there's any interest in their product. I didn't do any of that. I just made it, and I just had a feeling that people would like it, and I was lucky. I didn't lose all my investment. But yeah, there's definitely two types there for sure.
Well, and I think that feeling, like you said, you kind of have that gut feeling, and sometimes you can't think about it too much. Like even you just got to run with it. And I completely get where you're coming from, because I'm the exact same. Once I have an idea, sometimes it might be my stubborn part too, where I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. Let's just roll with it and launch it and see where it goes. Because you also have to be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. Like and that's why I have so much respect for entrepreneurs, because I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say bravery, but a lot of fearlessness there, right? It's like a lot of people who I know who talk to me about ideas or businesses, they're often held back by, I don't know if it's going to work. And they have those sort of self-doubts or just doubts about the product or about the business. And I think entrepreneurs in general, or at least a lot of them, have that fearlessness where they're like, I'm just going to do this. And if it fails, it fails. I don't want it to, but I'm willing to at least, put it out there and make it better. I mean, when I launched Grin, I picked 3 colors that were, they were not great colors, and they really hindered the start of the business. And only when I realized, geez, I should try some other colors, that it really started to get popular. And so, but that's the thing, right? You try it, you put it out there in the world and see what happens. You get feedback, and you just kind of keep going.
Yeah, I love that. And being okay to change it. Like the amount of entrepreneurs I've chatted with, and they're like, I took 3 months off, or I took a whole break setting back and figuring out the name, really dialing in to perfect it kind of after they've done the trial and the test run, because you can spend all that time testing and making sure that you've got this product, but then if no one wants it, if it's perfect to you, and then someone else doesn't want it or see the reason of why they would purchase it, then you've wasted all that other time.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think there's a lot to be said. I mean, it depends on the product, right? Like obviously, if you were making a car,
Oh yeah,
you can't wing it. But yeah, for sure. Like doing a lot, like tons of businesses, I agree 100%. It's better to build it and put it out there, and see if it sticks, as long as it's not too much money up front. And I've been lucky. Like I didn't know I had to have a medical device license in Canada, so I have to actually have a government license. Because it's what's called it's a type 1 medical device, even though it's just a toothbrush. And thank God that didn't cost me $100,000. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this call right now.
Yeah.
Things like this, you don't realize, but then you learn later, and you're like, ooh, all right.
What were some of the biggest challenges you found, like launching Grin? Was it figuring out all the licensing and like all the different protocols you had to go through to launch?
It's a good question. I mean, manufacturing is tough. Manufacturing is difficult for a few reasons. One, I knew nothing about it. I know a lot more now. Like I've learned a lot, but at the beginning, and I'll say this honestly, like the very first iteration, I'm surprised 2 pieces even fit together, because I mean, the industrial designer did a great job. He's really good at what he does. He understands it, but there's so much nuance and there's so many more things involved, that I had no idea about. And then I just took it and I gave it to manufacturers. I said, here, make this for me. And, luckily it turned out. And the first batch wasn't perfect, but it's been iterated and it's getting better and better and better. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything, there's lots of challenges. I can't really pinpoint one. I'd say manufacturing was probably my biggest challenge, just because, like I said, I knew nothing about it. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges. It's tough. I'm sure
Manufacturing, I can relate on the manufacturing side, because you kind of have no control once it's in their hands. It's like it's in production. You're making like, how many did you purchase? Like how many did you make right off the get-go? Like what was your quantity?
So the first order was really low. I made 600 handles and 12,000 brush heads.
Okay.
So that was a pretty small order. And I worked with really good manufacturers, and they were understanding. They didn't have huge, they worked with me to start with small quantities, which was great. But then every order is just, obviously getting larger and larger. Awesome. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like when you give it to them and they produce it, you're just nervous, because you're like, oh my God, please let this work. Because, you've sunk, at this point, you're sinking a lot of money into it.
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure. if your girls have TikTok or not, but there's this like one video where it's like, please don't be ugly, please don't be ugly. And like you open up the package, you're like, oh, thank God it's pretty. Like, because you just don't
Yeah.
know until it arrives.
Oh, exactly. Every time I get a shipment and I open the boxes, I'm like, oh, phew. And often there's little tiny issues that just, drive you nuts. And you're like, oh my God. But for me, it's just learnings every time. So as long as they're not major.
And you're probably the only one who's going to notice
Yeah.
the little flaws anyways that happen. I even remember we had gotten this massive lash order, and I noticed that they didn't do all of the labeling the exact same from before. So I was like I was so OCD about these labels, and I remember emailing the manufacturer and taking pictures like, this isn't centered the way this one was. Everyone's like, we didn't even notice.
Yeah. My wife gives me heck the whole time because she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at this one against this one, or look at this thing on the packaging versus that one. She's like, oh, I never would have noticed. And it's great, right? When you hear that, because you're like, oh, maybe I am being a little OCD on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Now, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, grinbrush.com is the website. So it's just as it sounds. So GRINBRUSH.com. And then probably Instagram. So that's Instagram.com/Grin Toothbrush. That's where they can learn more about a product and check it out. Give us a follow.
Well, thank you so much.